What's up, guys? Welcome to the Bladed Wedge Show. Today is June 29th, 2020. Obviously, it's a Monday today. We usually are Sunday nights at 8 p.m., but with the rain delay at the Travelers yesterday, we decided to push it to today. I am down on the Jersey Shore, so getting a little bit closer to Checo, but he is still in Philly, so we're not together, but we're pretty excited to go over the show today. As a reminder, we're just guys who love watching golf, talking golf, and most importantly, playing golf. If you don't already, follow us on Twitch and Instagram. That's the best way to start to follow and stay up to date with what we're doing. But Checo, how you doing, man? Welcome to 4th of July week.
Yeah, big week. I thought we were going to see a little Monday finish today on the PGA Tour with that rain delay, but glad Dustin got it done and wrapped it up Sunday night.
Yep, very interesting. I know we both have some big plans this week. You have a little tourney you're playing in today, so you want to touch on that?
Yeah, so the our Golf Association of Philadelphia has open play days. So basically, if you're a member of the Golf Association of Philadelphia and have a handicap registered through them, you can go and play different courses that are also in the Gap Association. So today, this afternoon, me and three of my buddies are going to play Moslem Springs. It's up by like Hershey, Pennsylvania. Should be a good day. It's beautiful weather out, so I'm excited to play.
That's awesome. That'll be a great time. Definitely let me know how that goes. But with kind of the shorter show today, let's jump right into the Bladed Wedge tee sheet. So obviously got to kick it off with the Travelers Championship. There was a lot of drama pre-tournament about COVID, including the PGA Tour Commissioner coming out and having a press conference to answer questions about it. Most notably, Brooks' caddy had tested positive and then tested negative. But at the end of the day, Brooks and his brother Chase, who Monday qualified for the event, both withdrew, as well as some other significant players such as Webb Simpson. But overall, it seemed like the PGA Tour did a really good job handling it. I broadcasted the press conference from the commissioner, and he did a really good job putting things in place. But anything you wanted to kind of touch on there? It seems like they have things mostly under control for now.
Yeah, I think PGA Tour did the right thing. I think so did obviously Brooks and Chase had the WD. I guess the one big point is Chase Monday qualified, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sucks. But I feel like those Monday qualifiers are so hard to get into and so hard to like really play well, go low enough where you get one of those spots. And to see him have to withdraw, terrible. But it is what it is, and they have the protocols in place, and you got to follow them.
Yeah, and kind of going along with that, the PGA Tour is handling this really well, and they actually gave Chase a entry into next year's tournament. So obviously a bad situation, but I respect how serious everyone's taking it, including Brooks. And it's awesome to see the players in the tournament and the tour working together and saying, "Hey, you're doing the right thing now. We'll reward you with an entry next year." That's the kind of stuff that you have to have between the players and the tour to keep this moving forward, because there are going to be suboptimal situations like that.
Totally, completely agree.
And then, moving really into it, it was pretty awesome to watch Phil play really well. I think he had a share of the lead after Friday, or at least was right up there. Awesome to see him play well. He really struggled over the weekend. Obviously, he's won this tournament twice before. But I just want Phil to be playing well. He's electric when he's hitting his irons well and making some putts.
Yeah, he's 50 years old, and he looks like 35. Just still hitting the ball a long way. I don't think he has any plans of going to the Champions Tour anytime soon. So yeah, I mean he's doing great, and I can see him contending in a lot more tournaments this year.
Yep, totally agreed. I do think he needs to ditch the sunglasses. I'm not a huge fan. I thought that was a joke, but he's taking it pretty seriously here. But, overall, always awesome to see Phil in it. I would love to see him in it, Sunday at a major. But this is a good start because his game has been a little bit off lately. Moving into it, really wanted to jump into Will Gordon. He needed a two-way tie for second or better to get conditional status on the PGA Tour, and it was really rocky. On 17, he missed had to be less than 4-footer for par. So he made bogey, and then he came back and birdied 18th to get and ended up getting a tie third. So just an awesome story there. Great to see him play well and sneak in even after that really bad bogey.
And that's the nerves too. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he probably knew that he had a lot riding on this finish, and he knew his position where he needed to get to, and I think that was definitely in the back of his mind coming down the stretch.
Definitely. It's exactly what we were talking about with the nerves of some of the higher guys during the
Yep.
first tournament back. It's just not used to this tournament play. This is the
Yep.
same nerves for just a whole different reason. Obviously, just so much riding that putt, literally a putt that could change his life. Now he has the
Yep.
opportunity to play in the PGA Tour the rest of the year. Obviously, with some restrictions, doesn't have a full card, but is going to get a shot to play in more events and potentially make it and get a full card for next year. So, super excited for him. Sunday, as we talked about, and the reason we're doing the show on Monday, there was a rain delay when Dustin had 3 holes left. Kind of helped Dustin, in my opinion. He was starting to get really errant on his shots off the tee. He did make par, a really good bogey, and then a good par. But just an unfortunate situation to have that at the end of the round for the tournament. But at the end of the day, that they got through it pretty quickly, and Dustin was able to come out and win and play well down the stretch.
Yeah, he hit that last drive on 18, which went like 351. It was just an absolute bomb, and I think that was kind of the icing on the cake.
Yeah, it's awesome to see him win, and when he is playing well, he was so good. Especially, it really a lot of his playing comes down to, is he going to hit his wedges well, and is he going to make a couple putts? I know he's putting with that new, I think it's a TaylorMade putter that is a blade, but it's supposed to feel more like a mallet. So that definitely helped him today, because he was putting way better than when he came out during that TaylorMade event during quarantine.
And I didn't know off the top of my head, like, when was the last time Dustin has won an event? Because you feel like you always know, like, oh yeah, Dustin, he's always going to be around the leaderboard. And he had that stretch, a couple of years ago where, he won the U.S. Open at Oakmont and was playing like super well, always contending. But I feel like recently we haven't really seen him play that well, and I think his game's kind of fallen apart. So I mean, this week just came out and played flawless.
Yeah, out of nowhere, like you said, a lot of people weren't talking about Dustin. Obviously, he's a huge name, so he's always someone to look out for. But I don't think anyone was like, "Oh, this is going to be Dustin's week. He's been playing well. It's just a matter of time." He just really put it together, and he should be in a good spot for the rest of the year. It'd be pretty awesome to watch him and Brooks battle it out on a major or on a Sunday. So I was kind of missing that. I think Brooks would have loved that. But yeah, it was great to see him win, and we'll see what this does to his confidence for the rest of the year.
Definitely.
Moving on, this week we have the Rocket Mortgage Classic, obviously a hometown one for me, being from Michigan. Pretty excited to watch that, and it is a beautiful golf course that I've actually played before in a high school tournament, so excited to watch it. Very hard golf course. I'm sure these guys will tear it up, though. But the story we got to talk about is obviously Tiger Watch. No Tiger this week at the Rocket Mortgage. We're still probably targeting him for Memorial, but we haven't had any confirmation on that. Any thoughts from you, Checo?
Yeah, and this is same thing I've said every day. Like, I think Rocket Mortgage, like, I'm surprised he hasn't come back yet. I mean, it's absolutely crazy that we haven't seen him back. Rocket Mortgage is because he used to sponsor or like run that event.
Yeah, that was when it was the Pontiac. He did work with them.
Yeah, so he used to like sponsor that and host that tournament, and then it switched to the Rocket Mortgage. So maybe there would have been some sort of connection to get him into this event, but he's going to do whatever he wants. He's Tiger Woods.
Yeah. And kind of going off of that now, the unofficial host of the tournament is Ricky. So, he usually gets a pretty good field out there. It'll be interesting to see him play. He's been pretty disappointed with his play since we've been back on the PGA Tour. So we'll see if that turns around this week.
Well, and Ricky's like best friends with Tiger. So I wonder if he would have sent him a text, because obviously Ricky's going to want the best field at his event. So I wonder if there was any conversations between him and Tiger about like, hey, like, any shot you want to come play this week?
Yeah, I bet you there was at least, a quick conversation around that with Ricky trying to pull together a good field for the tournament. But like you said, Tiger's going to do what Tiger thinks is best for
Yeah.
himself. And probably sounds like Memorial is the case, but we'll keep you guys updated on anything that we hear. Moving on to our rotating topic, we're going to do kind of a standard one for us today when we ask all of our guests, but we figured you guys would be interested in our answers. So we're going to go with favorite club in the bag. Check, I'll let you kick this one off.
It's going to be driver, and I think I'm going to need driver today.
Uh-huh.
I just think when I hit the ball in the fairway, it like completes my game. Like I just have so much more confidence from my irons through my short game when I'm getting off the tee well. So I'm going with driver today.
I love that. I thought you were going to go with putter, to be honest. I've seen you putt with that and make like that one time we played, you made 3 birdies in a row, including one from off the green. So that's what I thought you were going to go with. But for myself, I'm going to go with putter. It's kind of a club that sometimes is off for me, but when it is on and I'm feeling good with it, that's when I score my best and can really make up for a lot of different areas of my game. So I'm going to go with putter as well. And then before we get to our interview, like we've mentioned in the past, we are looking for help. So if you want to be our third, help us out on social or video editing, shoot us an email, bladedwedge@gmail.com. Remember to give us a follow on Instagram and Twitch to stay up to date with what we're doing. And then next week, 8 p.m., we'll be back on schedule talking about the Rocket Mortgage and then Memorial and giving you guys an update on what Tiger's doing. To finish off today's episode, we interviewed Johnny Wunder, who's the director of original content, Instagram manager, and host of the Gear Jive podcast for Golf WRX. Obviously, you guys know that we have a good connection, a great relationship with Golf WRX, so it was really interesting to hear from him, not only about his career, kind of how he became director of content for Golf WRX, but also just talking to him about some questions we had about how, what the golf world looks like and how you make it in the content game. And then, he shared an awesome story about Freddie Couples and Tony Hawk. So definitely stay tuned to listen to that. Reminder, 8 p.m. next week. Thanks for watching, for supporting, and we'll see you guys soon.
Later.
What's up, guys? Today we have Johnny Wunder for our interview. He's the director of content and Instagram manager for Golf WRX. He's also the host of the Gear Drive podcast, and you can find him on golfwrx.com or at his Instagram at Johnny Wunder. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I'm sitting in a tent in my kids' playroom, which has become not only the home of the Gear Dive podcast, but also my new workspace during this quarantine. So this is my new natural habitat, is in this tent.
I love that. I know everyone's kind of getting creative on figuring out different ways to work, but I can honestly say this is the first time I've heard someone working from their kids' teepee. So we'll count that as a first.
Yeah, I am. I got Maui from Moana looking, just giving me eyeballs right now, right across the room, just staring at me with he's all tatted up, looking at me like he's gonna kick my ass. So
that's awesome. And you're up in Toronto, right?
Yeah, I've been up here for since my son Sevi was born. So I've been in Toronto for 3.5, 4 years now.
Awesome. And are you guys having the quarantining, and are you being able to get out and play any golf, or are you kind of on lockdown?
I have not played any golf yet. The courses are open for sure. They opened up a couple weeks ago. We've been so busy with homeschooling. The corona sort of affects everybody in different ways, especially if you have kids. The way that I guess we were kind of handed the situation was like, we send our kids to my oldest goes to a private school, and they did a really good job of like setting him up to have activities and schoolwork, but it's the parents need to facilitate it. And we have a 3-year-old, Sevi. So it's like, he's a so, I can't just tell the youngest one to go read a book because he'll burn the house down. So it's always one's homeschooling, one's working, one's doing this, one's doing that, and so now tomorrow is his last. Is my oldest is Augustus, and his last day is tomorrow. So that will open up some opportunity to play some golf, and I'm probably going to manipulate the system and see if I can't use Father's Day to sneak away for 36 at some point this week. So
I love that. Yeah, I'm in New York, and I see a lot of young parents who are still stuck in the city, trying to corral their kids and educate them and get through everything. So good luck with that, and I'm glad that school is almost over for now, and hopefully this fall it will return back to normal.
I hope so. This is Banana Town.
So let's kind of start from the beginning, because obviously really want to make sure our audience knows your background. So can you talk about how you really got into the golf industry and then started to work with Golf WX, because I know you wear a lot of hats out there.
Yeah, I mean it's funny. Like I guess I'll take a couple of steps back. I mean I'm one of those guys that's sort of done everything in my life. I grew up in Seattle. I'm not going to give my whole life story, but I grew up in Seattle, and right out of high school, I was a bat boy for the Anaheim Angels. My godfather pitched for him, and I got a job doing that, so that was a cool experience.
That's awesome.
And then, at that point, wanted to go out and try and play. I was, pretty decent player with a lot of talent, so I tried to play for a little while, and ended up moving to California, and then got into went to college and got into waiting tables, and then got into marketing and got into acting, and I mean it's just like this frantic trying to find the next big thing, and I didn't really hit my stride, which is sort of how the Golf WRX thing came. I'll get to the point here in a second, but in 2011, it both kind of happened at the same time. I was working in the real estate industry, and the girl I was dating at the time was like, first thing she said is, "You're miserable. You need to find something else to do," because I was making really, really good money, but I hated my life. And I was I'm 43, so that was 8 years ago this happened, and I ended up almost out of spite getting into the film production because I really wanted to work for a film producer and get into that part of film. And it was laughable at that age. I was 33. I didn't go to Yale. I didn't go to Stanford or USC. I had no resume for it. My resume had bartender and Mercedes-Benz on it. It was nobody. And literally out of spite, I sent out like 100 resumes just to show her that I would do it. Like, okay, I'm not afraid to do it. And I could have ended up working in porn. I mean, I would have taken any job that came. Because I just wanted to get in, and that's the first thing that you have to learn. I mean, for people that are coming up that watches this show, is I was willing to do, when I say anything, I mean professionally anything. I wasn't willing to hop on the leather couch or anything like that, but I was willing to get coffee and take orders for free for a little while to learn. I was willing to trade in my time for the experience and the education. And a small producer, had made one movie, took me in and make me an unpaid office assistant. And I knew once I figured out the business, I would move up, and I got promoted like 3 times in a year, and then got recruited from that company into a bigger company and got promoted all the way up on that company. And then, I mean, it worked. Like the idea worked. And how that segues into Golf WRX in a weird way is you sort of learn, in the film space, is you learn how to work in chaos, and you learn how to it doesn't always have to make sense, right? There's the life doesn't work in from A to Z. It's not really how it works. It's kind of A to 2 to 9 to. And when I moved to Toronto, and I was already writing for WRX at the time as a featured writer, kind of what a lot of people do, and I was one of the first featured writers that got in there, and that was literally out of boredom. I was on the site. I've been a member of the site since 2005, and I've been a gear junkie my whole life. And I knew Zach, the editor, and I said, I want to write articles. How do I do it? And he told me to write up a spec, just a test article to see if I could even put 2 sentences together. And the first article that I wrote for the site was in 2011, and it was a complete lie, but I wrote it as if it really happened. And it was if you go to the site and look at my first story, it's one called Playing with My Hero, and it's about me going to play golf with Mark Langston, who's my godfather. And I played more than anybody in my life, like by thousands of rounds. Like I played, and I wrote it as if I won a contest and got to play with him at his home club. And not thinking it would ever see the light of day. And then Zach ended up liking the article and posted it on the front page. And I'm like, oh God, that's a total lie, but I'll, let's let it ride.
Yeah.
Asked me if I wanted to write more, and I kept writing more. So I just kind of kept in touch with the site, kept writing, collaborating, whatever I could do. If they needed somebody to fill in and write, I did. So fast forward to 2018, the beginning. Film business financially goes like this, and I wanted to find something stable that I would enjoy, that I knew I would stay engaged in, and I knew the Golf WRX boys, and Andrew Tursky was the editor at the time, and I sent him an email with an idea of like, let's start figuring out how to make the video content and that part of the video of the site better. And you know, a couple weeks later, after sending these emails, I was in Dearborn meeting with Richard Odie, the owner, and my boss, Aaron Martin. And, you know, they took I kind of created a job for myself, and they bought what I was selling. And obviously the job has morphed into way more than that since I got in the door. But a lot of it was, I don't want to say it was out of desperation, but I, you know, as a man with 2 kids, a lot of it came out of necessity. I had to find something that I knew I could make an impact quickly. And they took a crack on me, and in my life, it's funny. There's life before WRX and life after WRX. I was a nobody in the golf industry when I started, and I'm still a nobody now. But I have, you know, I write articles, and I have a platform now that I didn't have 2 years ago. So it's been an interesting ride, man. I can tell you that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really appreciate you sharing that. You know, my story with Golf WRX is slightly similar in terms of, you know, starting off in that featured writers program, and then, you know, kind of pitching. Andrew was the first guy I talked to as well, probably back in 2018, and then just coming up with an idea to do this on Twitch and try to do that. Obviously, we're still in our beginning stages, but kind of pitching an idea. Ben thought it was an interesting one, and here we are. So, you know, it's awesome to kind of be involved with a company that really is interested and takes, you know, chances on people and really allows them to kind of be creative. So really cool to have that. And then I kind of wanted to kind of move into, you know, obviously your podcast is really focused around like gear and apparel. So can you talk to us like where that love of the gear and the apparel kind of came from?
Yeah, I mean, the gear, the podcast has been sort of a weird animal. I never expected it to go on as long as it has. It's such a weird story. So Andrew Tursky, it was in Dearborn. You know, when I first started this gig, I used to go into Dearborn, you know, once a month to, you know, just to be there and be in the office. And you know, that's obviously changed just because, you know, you get busy, you travel enough. And Andrew and Knudsen had their 2 guys talking golf podcasts, and Aaron. The cool thing about our CEO, Aaron, who nobody really sees his face because he's kind of like behind the scenes. He makes sure the site runs, and he gets ideas, and he'll let anybody take a winger if you can, you know, kind of let your balls hang out there. He'll give you a shot. And I was like, I want to do a podcast. Like, I don't know how, but I'll figure it out. And like, I want to do one around the tour and gear heads, and you know, I'll call it the Gear Dive or something. And like, literally that's how it was, you know, it was the Gear Dive or something. And it just ended up being the Gear Dive. And, you know, it's what that podcast has sort of turned into for me was, I guess it gave me, one, it's obviously podcasts are a brilliant relationship builder with your chosen genre. You know, you get to meet everybody. But, you know, it's been fun. You know, it's a gear show, but I've sort of just kind of picked guests and talked to people, whoever I've had Brian LaRoche, who's at Brian Golf, on like 4 times. I have my buddies, you know, my buddy Nico will come on. I've had George Gankis on. I've had a bunch of teachers. It's just I would call it more of like a better players podcast, meaning for the guys that are really super into golf.
Yep.
On every level. That's kind of like what my show has morphed into, and I'm in the process of making some tweaks to it. I don't know why. I want to freshen up the format or whatever. But it's been a cool show. I mean, I've had guests on that show between the normal show and then I do for Club Launch, which is a piece of equipment. I had Ricky Fowler on, Justin Thomas. You know, Freddie Couples was on my show.
Wow.
I mean, that's a crazy story. You know, Rocco Media was on my show, and him and I have become good friends. Jimmy Walker's been on my show. Him and I have become good friends. These are people I text with all the time. And if you would have told me 2 years ago that a lot of my text chain would be a bunch of old tour players, I'd be like, you know, no fucking way. But
yeah,
you know, it's weird. it's just a weird universe I live in. Yeah, but the show's been great. I just you guys got to hear. You guys want to hear the Freddie Couples story?
Yeah. Let's go into the Freddie Couples story because Freddie's one of my all-time favorites.
Okay, yeah. So in my household, the one in Seattle, Fred Couples in my household to my father is everything. Like, and I say that not to be dramatic. He's everything to my dad. We grew up in Seattle. He was a Jefferson Park legend. My dad just thinks he's the coolest thing ever. Still to this day. If he could trade Freddie Couples for my mom, my sister, and I, he'd do it right now. No matter if his ass would be gone. And I'm not trying to be funny. Those are facts.
Uh-huh.
And I had emailed his PR person for Bridgestone. And they said, hey, because that's kind of how it works. You talk to the marketing people and the PR people, like, hey, if you ever want to, talk to any of our, ambassadors, let us know. And I'm jokingly said to this guy who's a friend of mine, I was like, his name's Ben Kramer. I'm like, Benny, how about get Freddie on my podcast? Like, you want to do something big? Get Freddie. And he's like, haha, okay, well, yeah, we'll try. And I've left that conversation never, 100% knowing that I'm never going to get Fred Couples on my podcast. And 3 weeks later, a month later, it was Brian Knudsen, Andrew Tursky, and myself were with our film crew. We were driving from Los Angeles to San Diego to go meet with Tony Hawk and Burt Lamar from Iliac Golf. This is all so we're going down the 5 and, down in San Diego. And my phone rings, and it's Fred Couples' agent. He said, yeah, I got the request for the podcast for Fred. He's totally down to do it, and he can be ready in 45 minutes. And we're just leaving Orange County. We're an hour and 15 minutes away from San Diego, right? So of course I say yes. Yeah, great. 45 minutes will make it work. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm in my car, not only I'm like, one, how am I going to record this thing? I'm not in the studio. I don't have any of my gear. I don't. Okay, I guess I'll find some app I can record it on. 2, I'm going to have to show up to go meet Tony Hawk, who's 50 times bigger than Fred Couples will ever be.
Mm-hmm.
Meet him. I'm producing the shoot that we're doing with him. Literally meet him, high five him, and go back in my car to go interview Fred Couples. So the only thing I have that I know is that Fred Couples is notoriously late. So if they say 45 minutes, I actually have a couple hours. So I'm flying to San Diego. We get there, we get set up. I'm waiting for my phone to ring because he keeps telling me that Freddie's going to call, and it's not ringing. And we get it all set up, and Tony Hawk walks in. So we're like, hey, Tony, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm Johnny. I'm producing this whole thing for Golf WRX, and my phone starts buzzing. And I'm like, that's Fred Couples. I got to go do this podcast in my car. Dude, it's great to meet you. I'm going to try and get off this and finish this up with you. And I literally just said, kind of high-five Tony Hawk and ran to my car. And I'm like, I probably look like the biggest asshole in the planet to guy. To Tony Hawk. And 2, what universe am I living in right now? I just high-fived that guy to go run in my car to go interview this guy. So anyway, long story longer, get in the car, do the interview, and they still haven't told my dad that this is all going down. I didn't have time to call my dad during all this commotion. So do the interview. Freddie was awesome. We talked 15 minutes for the podcast, 15 minutes after the podcast. We're talking about people that we mutually knew, old places, old restaurants, all this. Just a beautiful hour and a half. And I got done with the podcast, go in, make sure Tony's things all taken care of. That all went fine, thank God, because that could have gone bad really quickly. And at the end of it, I finally called my dad, and I'm like, Dad, you're not going to believe this. He's like, what? I'm like, I interviewed, Fred Couples is on my podcast. And you could hear him going you could hear the wheels turn in his head, what the fuck? Why is he on your podcast? How? In my dad's mind, it's Fred Couples doesn't deal with people like us. Because we're not in the same thing here. You got to be kidding me. But then he actually heard the podcast on Golf WRX radio a couple days later, and obviously told all of his friends at the club, and he was a proud papa for about 24 hours, and then that stopped. But anyway, that's the Fred Couples story. Sorry,
that is awesome. Did you get into bed that night and be like, what just happened today? Were you in shock and awe that you were like, all right, well, I just kind of stood up Tony Hawk for an hour and a half to interview Fred Couples?
Oh, well, you know the oddball thing about that whole experience is now to this day, like I text him or he'll text. No, he doesn't text me. Let's be honest. Like he'll text me back. But if I ask him a question, like I did a big write up in Golf WX about his bag, like a deep dive into the bag of Fred Couples. It's on the site right now. When I asked him, like, okay, I need to go through your bag with you to figure out what's in there and your specs, and he's like, okay, I'll do my best. The guy's got no clue what's in his bag. So for me to get his club specs, and I have him at my fingertips the whole time. I'm asking him questions. I'm like, okay, bro, your 3-wood shaft. I know it's a Harrison Mugen prototype. What's the weight though? He's like, well, how do I look? You just what? Like, is it 7 or 6? Is there any numbers on it? He didn't know. Like, he didn't care. So I have to collect data on his bag from 5 different people because his bag's all over the place. You know, it's 15 different companies. And, you know, it's just there's no rhyme or reason to it. So, but I had him the whole time. Like he could have just made the thing easy for me and just answered my questions, but he physically could not do it. He didn't know. Like, he didn't.
You're like, can we FaceTime? And you just point the camera at your bag.
Yeah, we don't know. I don't know him like that. I don't know him like that where I can FT the guy. But I wish someday.
Yeah, someday.
The one thing that's crazy about Fred Couples, and I never knew this, is that him and Jim Nantz, weren't they roommates at the University of Houston? Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think that's so wild. And he's your golfer that shows up to a tournament, hits a couple wedges, then goes out and shoots like 63 because he's so good at golf, but just doesn't practice at all. I feel like.
Yeah, there's certain guys out there, and I think, and even the guys on tour will tell you, because I've talked to enough of these guys. Freddie Couples, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, obviously, like, you don't even have to mention him, but there's certain guys that are roll out of bed talented. Yeah. Like, they're roll out of bed. Like, and I would even throw Anthony Kim in that bucket. I'd throw Patrick Reed in that bucket. Like, you can tell the guys that are actually, like Lucas Glover, they are roll out of bed, give them a stick, they're going to hit it. And you can pick them out who has manufactured their talent and who don't need to do much to show up anywhere and still compete. And there's not a lot of them out there, but there's enough. Like Bubba Watson's obviously that way. Some of them aren't though. Some of them need to grind and practice and hone their craft. And some guys like Freddie can, if he's going to go play the Masters and he hasn't played in a month, he just needs to squeeze in 36 and his back's feeling okay. If the wind hits him right, he'll compete. Like but that's pure talent. There's no manufacturing going on there. It's just like the guy is just a good golfer.
Yeah.
It's just that he just understands how to play. So it's crazy.
So I guess switching gears a little bit, moving into some more of like the content that we're seeing on the PGA Tour. In your opinion, like where does the PGA Tour, LPGA Tour, some of these, where do we need to get better, and where are we missing today in the landscape we're seeing with some of the content being developed?
Well, the PGA Tour, like if you're going to use the tour as an example, it's a challenge for them. Like they are the facilitator of the actual on-field action. So, the videos that they put up now for me from them being MLB or NFL, it's plenty, right? Like I don't need to see behind the curtains that much because they already cover it better. Golf is covered really, really well, in my opinion, especially the majors. Like we got Pro Tracer, people want mic'd up golfers. I don't. I mean, I think it's cool every once in a while for special events, but those are private conversations. Like they're not going to give you the real nitty gritty. What's going to happen is they're going to talk politely on camera, and every once in a while they're going to turn it off for a second and have a real conversation. Like I wouldn't want somebody doing that to me at work. But golf content in general, the tour that does it the best, the European tour's content is the best in the game, followed shortly, right behind. TaylorMade does a really good job as an OEM. Their content's really, really good. They understand how and what to show behind the curtain. So they have those marketing days that they have for that 3-day period, and they get a ton of good content out of those things. But those two those two entities, in my opinion, are doing the best job of selling the game of golf, selling the tour athletes, and selling the equipment that they sell and explaining why it's good. So, and some companies flat out fail at it. I'm not going to name who it is, but some companies really suck at it.
Mm-hmm.
But TaylorMade does a really good job. With guys like Chris Trott on the Tour Truck, they are very generous with the information that they share, and it's all to the betterment and the benefit of us, the golfers, when we get to understand why a tour player puts a certain club in their hand or plays a golf course a certain way, because eventually you can whittle it down to how it affects you, right? So yeah, those two entities do a really, really good job. Obviously, I think WRX,
Yep.
For what we do with the rapid fire content, kind of like the Barstool model, we do a really, really good job. The only thing I would change about us is I wish we could take draw more of a line in the sand, at least for a section of the site where we could have a little bit more opinion, but that's not our function. People go to our site to get honest feedback on equipment, and I wish I could go ham on some topics, and but I can't, just because it's, one, nobody cares what I have to say for the most part, and two, that's not our site. We're not Barstool, but the model's the same. So,
do you have any concerns?
Anyway.
I know that the PGA Tour itself is pretty restrictive on letting people use highlights and different aspects of their content, and I know the MLB kind of switched to a similar model 10, 15 years ago, where they own all their content and don't allow it to be like produced for highlights, and are very restrictive about it, and it's definitely hurt some of their game. And I know the NBA is a little different, where they allow everything to be reposted and highlights to be used everywhere. Do you have any concerns with how restrictive the PGA Tour is on that?
Not really, just because, so look at it like this, because it's always about whether or not something can get shared,
mm-hmm.
right? So like there's been some really awesome YouTubers that have gone in there and taken out like every shot from Tiger's third round, and like there was a guy that had this, like, I think it was Avid Golfer on YouTube, and he would go back into all of Tiger's tournaments and literally be 15 minutes of Tiger
mm-hmm.
in the 2008 U.S. Open, right? And he would go do all the editing, and eventually Augusta came in and shut him down. And I was like, that kind of sucks.
Right.
Like, those were fun.
Yeah.
Those were fun videos to watch. But eventually the demand will inspire, and you're seeing it right now with the tour, and the USGA is doing it right now too, which I think the USGA is doing a really, really good job right now, is they're giving you the full stake, then they're giving you a quarter version of the stake. It's eventually the big entities are just going to do it themselves. So what these smaller YouTube creators or content creators, especially on YouTube, can do is keep flicking the beast, and eventually the beast sort of just like, it's kind of like, well, screw it, we'll do our videos, and we're going to give you the best quality, because if it's picked and poked and repurposed, the quality's not the same. And I have no problem with the tour holding all the cards. It's their video, they own it. Like, that's, they're the tour because they're the tour. And I'm not a big I guess, it's like if Golf WRX puts up a picture and everybody's, because our stuff gets ripped all the time, because Greg does a really good job of taking these awesome pictures. But if I throw 6 Tiger Woods pictures up on Instagram, give me 45 minutes, and I could, hashtag Tiger Woods, what's in the bag, and every single picture on Instagram is going to be one of ours. Like, that sucks, because Greg works for WRX. So, but in relation to the content, YouTube, especially the video content, it just inspires those bigger entities to figure it out and do it their way. And usually their way, they have the resources to make it better than some person could do in their basement, in my opinion. Because I've tried it, and my stuff sucks.
Yeah.
I've tried to put videos together and like that, and my stuff's awful. And I know how to edit too. I'm a good editor. I'm crap, so I'm letting in the resources do it.
Totally agree. I think
that answers your question.
Yeah, it definitely does. I think I'm totally in agreement that you do need sometimes people who are going to, push the envelope, and then you kind of help move some of the bigger guys in the space. So definitely in agreement there. And then Checo, do you want to go through the rapid fire questions to finish it off?
Yeah, let's do it. So just to finish off, let's just run through a couple rapid fire questions that we put together. So starting with the first one, what is your favorite course ever played?
Favorite golf course that I've ever played? It's kind of a tie. Butler National in Chicago and the Olympic Club in San Francisco.
Ooh.
My two favorites.
And what is the lowest round you've ever posted?
I've shot 68 twice.
Nice. Trey just had his first round ever under par last week.
Shot 68 last week, first time ever under par. It was awesome.
I feel good.
Favorite PGA Tour player?
Oh, Tiger. I'm the biggest Tiger fanboy ever.
It's funny. We thought we're on like a 3-interview streak of getting Tiger Woods. So obviously, his place in the game is huge.
Well, but let's that's the funny thing is like. I think it was Phil. Somebody said some of the tour players. How can he not be your favorite?
I know.
I want to hear that because I don't like the argument why he would be your favorite player is a really easy argument. I want to hear the argument why he's not.
I'm not going to give you the argument.
Well, he's not my favorite player because he's what?
Yeah.
Like, give me a really good reason why he's not your favorite. And it can't be about the scandal. He's a grown ass man, and he paid for those sins. Like that's behind us. Like get past that part. Like, and I don't care how he is morally. He's not my spiritual guide. He's a golfer. So like, I care about Tiger Woods, the golfer.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, I digress. Keep going.
I agree.
And then last question here: what's your favorite club in the bag?
Oh God, that's a good question. What's my favorite club in the bag? 5-wood. My favorite club in the bag.
How come? What's the reasoning?
I always hit my 5-wood well. I don't know why. It's just always that club that when I need it, it's there for whatever reason. It's the one that especially like when I'm struggling really bad, if I'm having a bad day, that's 5-wood's always the one that like will be the highlight of the day. It's like, oh, I hit this off the tee a couple times and hit it in a couple par 5s and it performed. And I just, for some reason, the 5-wood's always been a good one for me.
I love it. What club is it?
That's a damn good question. Right now, it's I got all my clubs are in this room next to me. Right now I'm playing a PX. It's a PXG 7-wood. That's like bent to a 5-wood. It's like 21 degrees, but it's open to like 19.5 degrees, and it's really, really good.
That's awesome.
Really, really good. But I haven't played in so long, I couldn't even tell you if it's still good. I have no idea. It was good. It was good. It was good 5 months ago.
There we go. Awesome. Well, really appreciate you coming on. It's been awesome. I feel like Chucko and I have learned a lot, so I'm sure our audience has as well. So thanks for coming on, and we'll have to do it again soon.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. It was fun, and you guys got a great thing going on, so keep it up. If I can be helpful in any way, you let me know.
Awesome. We will. Thanks, Ben.